Not talking about subverting a community, it's talking about attacking the whole fabric and structures of a society. If you go and read some of the papers of a gentleman called Gramsci, who was an Italian fascist, but that of course is based on Marxism, he wrote a couple of beautiful papers about how you destroy society, Western society, by merging the public and the corporate sectors, attacking the institutions, undermining the politicians, and this leads to the collapse of the society. And I say to you, as an ex-naval officer trained in warfare, you are living it. You are living it.
The Quanga system, from what you've just described, looks to be a very useful way of rewarding placemen or dummies to do your dirty work for you.
Absolutely, because corruption is the best method by which you destroy morality and you control people. That's why I have a very experienced gentleman who's up in the Sheffield area, and he exposed what was happening with massive amounts of money. And his reward for alerting the then chief executive of Sheffield City Council was to be threatened, bullied and intimidated to a horrific extent which cost him his marriage.
In our newsagents, I saw a copy of the Western Mail.
Yeah.
And there was a big headline, the chief executive of the Royal Mint is given a bonus of £1 million or something of that nature. So that intrigued me. I bought it. And yeah, his remuneration was effectively doubled by that bonus.
Yep.
Now, it just so happens that the Royal Mint have been churning out currency with Britannia left off the coinage. I just wonder if that is a reward for the work that chap is doing, removing the British identity of our coinage.
I don't know, but I think it'd be something worth investigating because I think it smells.
We've got a question, sorry, back to you, Simon. We've got a lady here with a question. But first of all, I've got a very, very quick one for you. On the same subject, how many of you are aware that the post office has a banking service? Everybody knows the post office has a banking service. Do you know who it really is? Do you know who you're dealing with? JP Morgan. Check it out, it's true. Your question?
Yeah, obviously I agree with what you're saying.
You don't have to, it's not compulsory, you can...
I do. What is it that you would suggest, you know, it's all very well just kind of refusing to comply with these things, but when you find yourself in a position, you know, sometimes you have to comply in order to not draw attention to yourself, or want to better phrase.
Well, as some of the other groups are saying, and I think this is an important one, you've got to do what you feel comfortable with. Now, there are people out there who really don't give a what's it, and they're prepared to get banged up in prison. I personally think that's a bit of a shame, because if you get banged up in prison, you can't do anything. So the art is to take it as close as you feel comfortable. But anything you do, supposing you want to actually really challenge where the local authority is spending your money. All the people are getting tight for money now, and you say, okay, where's it being spent? And you grip that and you don't let it go. You see counsellors, you get, hey, do you know your money's going in this? Most people don't know where their money's going. And you don't take no for an answer. So when they try and fob you off and block you and stall you, call you vexatious, because that's where they get to, that's the psychological attack. You're vexatious, and then you become a domestic terrorism. Great. Okay, but you go as far as you like, but do something. That's the thing.
We've got a bit of internal politics here. I offended Alistair earlier, shut him up. So we're going Alistair, Margaret, and then Simon. Okay?
Yep.
Right, well, it's not quite as important as the one I wanted to ask just now, but we'll talk to you after that.
Just stick off the
back
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, when I met someone in Devizes, just a couple asked where the castle was, which is the way, I don't know where. I didn't know, and I explained it to them. And I said, well, where are you from? Plymouth. Oh, I said, what's it like down there, politically? I just asked a direct question. Gosh, he said, it's like the Gestapo. Well, I said, I know someone from there that would agree entirely with what you just said. And it was funny, just strangers on the streets, I might say, had that feeling of what your town or city is become.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something interesting is that, I'll say what I've heard, because then you know the level the information's come. I have heard there's a war going on at the moment in Plymouth between the Masonic movement, which is traditionally Conservative aligned, and the Common Purpose movement, which is New Labour aligned. And we've recently had a change of control so that the old Labour government is out and and the Conservatives are in. And the Conservatives, I think, are finding that their Masonic networks are not working. And this is because Common Purpose is blocking those networks. And I've also heard that story repeated about some other cities. And I have also heard, and I'm just saying I've heard, so you can take it or leave it, I've also heard that we are now for the first time starting to see people in the Masonic movement leaving or questioning what their leaders are asking is done. And that's a very interesting situation. The person who asked me about Northern Ireland, the other thing I wanted to say about Northern Ireland is we have some very good people over there. I provided the information about the Common Purpose trained people in Northern Ireland, and the gentleman said he went and used it, and I said, so what happened? And he said, well, a person eventually lost their job after exposure, but something happened to a friend of mine which hasn't happened in ages, and that is they got a warning. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, somebody turned up in his shop and suggested he might like not to do what he'd been doing. And the bloke said that hadn't happened in my circuit in Northern Ireland for some years. The other thing that I am reliably informed of is that European Union officials are now visiting Northern Ireland on a weekly basis, like they, quote, own the place.
Margaret, wake up, it's your turn. You've been trying about half a dozen times, I know.
Well, one of the things that I've been suggesting, in fact, I keep whether to do it myself, and I wonder why people in Britain aren't doing it, is to stand outside the bank, the Royal Bank of Scotland and Lloyds and the other bank that Lloyds joined up with, and to say to people as they're going in, why are you still using this bank? Why this bank is not paying out money to small businesses, or not very much, as they should be doing. It's your money that's been put in there. They are, what's the other thing they're not doing? Anyway, you know, we should stand outside and object to what's going on.
Well,
and if lots of people with it, well, never mind. We are going to get removed by the police eventually. So we do need to make a statement. We do need to do something.
Margaret, that's lawful rebellion at work, and I'd say brilliant. But I've actually tried a little bit of this, and rather than stand outside the bank, you go in the bank to do your business, and you start talking to the person behind you. It's best when you're getting close to the counter, and you say, do you know about what's happening with the world money supplies, that they are actually fraudulent and collapsing? And the people get quite interested, and you have a little discussion, and you're amazed at who's listening, because they're in the bank. And then when you get to the counter, you say to the lady on the till or the man on the till, what do you think about these banks getting close to collapse? And they look at you and then they say, oh, well, this is Lloyd's Bank, that can't ever happen here. And you say, oh, well, I think it's getting close.
The other thing I've remembered is that the top people are still being paid huge bonuses.
Absolutely.
Instead of it in cash now, they're doing a big columnist by paying it in shares.
Yeah.
The other thing, I just want to say something else as well. I would advise everybody here to get the book by Sarah Buckley, Don't Blame Reburied, I think it's called.
Correct, yeah.
And everybody write to the newspapers and ask for the ban on Dunblane to be lifted. We want to know who's behind it, because the people who are behind it are the people I am quite certain that Brian has been talking about tonight.
Right.
And if you read Sarah Buckley's